Europe's welfare state is going bankrupt. Is America watching the canary in the coal mine? Last week, France's Court of Government Auditors sounded the alarm that social spending has, quote, spiraled out of control, warning that a, quote, liquidity crisis could be coming as soon as 2027 that could shut France out of financial markets. The main driver, of course, is mass migration, which has driven France's fiscal deficit to over 5% of GDP, with the social deficit set to soar by 50% in a single year. Now, the government had been cooking the books to try and hide it since migrant welfare is, of course, unpopular, but the Court of Auditors redid the numbers, concluding the government has, quote, lost control of public finances. The IMF even weighed in, urging structural reform to cut France's social spending given weak economic growth. Yes, the IMF, who normally lectures African countries. The background here is the French economy is crawling, with GDP growth projected at just 0.7% for 2025, yet social spending is exploding as France's ruling class imports a fresh crop of third-world voters. A 2022 study estimated that one-third of France's population is already migrant origin, and new migrants go on welfare at 2.5 times the rate of the French. This is true across the European Union, slow growth and exploding migrant welfare. It could get a lot worse if the tariff war with Trump takes European growth negative, even as Europe's left continues importing an estimated 4 million migrants per year, overwhelmingly from third-world countries. Meanwhile, Europe is frantically building its military, a warfare state to go with the welfare state, since Trump doesn't want to pay for their wars anymore. The EU plans to plow $840 billion into military, and Bloomberg estimates that could ultimately come to $3 trillion in an economy that's just two-thirds the size of the U.S. So Europe's economy is flatlining even as trillions are dumped into third-world migration and pointless wars. You gotta love socialism. Interestingly, there are a few countries in Europe that have had enough, and the EU is trying to crush them. Hungary's populist leader Viktor Orban has fought mass migration and the war in Ukraine, and in response, the European Union has slapped over $500 million of fines on Hungary for failing to accept migrants. In U.S. GDP terms, that's a $65 billion fine. Meanwhile, Hungary is trying to block new money for the meat grinder in Ukraine, in response to which 16 left-wing EU countries are literally threatening to strip Hungary of its voting rights. That's like stripping a U.S. state senators and representatives. So as next brought to you by Unchained.com, Europe is falling apart economically and socially. In the long run, America is actually in worse shape on government spending, with a federal deficit that's almost twice as big as the EU. It's even bigger than France. The big, beautiful budget will make it even worse unless Republicans in the Senate grow a spine. The rule of thumb is politicians don't fix it until they have to, which usually means a crisis. So maybe the best we can hope for is a crisis in one country or one European Union that concentrates minds here in America. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.